I'm Kira, and if you are here with me today, it is because you want to learn how to master crow pose. So I'm just going to take you through a quick tutorial on how to do crow and how to use strengthening drills to get better at crow. So the first thing that we always want to do when we practice arm balances is warm up the wrists and forearms. So our wrists take quite a beating in yoga, especially if you're not consistently pressing into all 10 finger pads. So that's something I implore you to start noticing in your yoga practices. Are your fingers nice and spread, and are you constantly pressing into all 10 fingers, especially the pointer finger and the thumb? The more you start to do this, it'll just become a habit, and the more it will start to reduce the load right at the wrist joint. It'll help displace your weight through the entire hand. So that's something important for you to notice. My favorite warm-up drill for the forearms is to inhale, take the arms up above the head, and you'll notice here I'm not reaching my shoulders up towards my ears. I'm keeping my shoulders nice and relaxed. And then my pelvis, I'll move to the side here. When I reach up, whether you're kneeling or sitting cross-legged, you don't want the pelvis to tip too much like this. So oftentimes what I see when I'm teaching yoga is people start to get a little lazy, they start to let all of these stabilizing muscles go, and they wind up with a back bend, which back bends in and of themselves aren't that bad, but if you have a habit of anteriorly tilting the pelvis like this, it can start to create issues for you over time. So just making sure that the pelvis is slightly tucked and under. We reach the hands up, shoulders are relaxed, and then we open and close the fingers rapidly. And ideally, you want to do this warm-up for anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute, and I recommend taking some rest in between and doing this 3 times. And it will really start to wake up all of the muscles in your forearms. Holding the arms above the head helps turn on all of the muscles in the shoulders, and it's just a really great warm up for the wrists, hands, and fingers. Gently shaking the hands out. Again, doing that 3 times to warm up, and then doing some gentle wrist stretches. So turning the fingertips towards the knees. My fingers are spread, and then gently sitting the booty back. You can let the wrists gently lift off the mat. They don't have to stay in contact with the mat. Just gently stretching here. Flipping onto the tops of the hands. And what I see a lot with this stretch is people do it, again, that habit of dumping all of your weight into your wrists. I see this in yoga a lot, is people just putting all of their weight right on that wrist joint, where what you want to do is sit the booty back. Again, it's perfectly fine for the hands and wrists to lift off the mat a little bit. What you really want to do is feel a stretch in the forearm here and in the front of the wrist. From there, taking the fingertips out to either side, and then gently moving side to side. You can take little circles, and then just playing around here, feeling the movement through the wrists. You can face the hands forward, take little circles again. Taking really intentional movements here to notice where it's stretching, where it feels a little tight. So a nice wrist warm-up is always really important for crow. So, the basics of crow. It is one of the most common arm balances that you'll see in a yoga class. So what we want to do is make that really big foundation. I always say in yoga that our fingers and our toes are like our roots. They're like roots of a tree. So the wider that they spread, the more foundation you're going to have, the more stability you're going to have. So we want the wrists to be in line with the shoulders. And then all you do is come up onto your toes. You want to take, if you're new to crow, the wider that your legs are and the more that they're right at the elbows, the easier the pose is going to be. So we walk our toes in towards our wrists I'm nice and wide. I'll face you so you can see just how wide my legs really are. Okay, I look kind of like a frog. And then I use the knees on the elbow joint, big bend in the elbows here. Okay, my elbow joint is what's lifting me up. And then I can gently lift my feet. Okay, so that's the beginning of crow, is being nice and wide like that. I'll do it facing the side here so that you can see. So nice bend in the elbows, the straighter the arms, the more difficult the pose. So don't be afraid here to lean the weight forward. And then gently lift, and you can lift one toe at a time. Okay, now, might be a little scary for you to send your head that far over the rest of your body. You might feel like you're gonna lose balance. So when you first start with a crow practice, I always recommend using blocks. So what I recommend is taking one block, just like that, on the highest level to go in front of your face, and then the other block you can use on the lower level, just like that, lowest level, highest level. This is the medium level, in case you were wondering. This level is not great for what we want to do, so we're going to put our feet on this. So nice low level here. So I get in the middle of both my blocks. I'm going to pull this block in. So you will just get to play around with this with your own blocks and with the positioning of your own body. But kind of like this, hands go in the middle. And then I walk my feet up onto this block. So now I'm already elevated. So if you've been having trouble, if you're tight in the hips, if you've been having trouble just getting onto your elbows, this will help. And then if you've been really nervous about your head going forward, that's what this block is for. So all you think about here is I'm just going to take my knees wide and I'm just going to put my head on this block. Okay, so this is where you can start, and then you lift toes, just like so. Eventually you might be able to lift your head, and then there you are, floating in space without your blocks. But they're there if you need them, if you start to lose your balance. Okay? So that's what I recommend. If you're progressing in your crow practice, the higher up the tricep, the closer to the armpits, the more difficult the crow pose, okay? So I'm in long sleeves today. I'm a little bit slippery with my fabrics, so we'll see how well I'm able to do this. So already, I'm going to start a little bit higher. So where I was starting like crow before, here, I'm already positioning my knees to get right up into my armpits. And then I gently lift. Good. And from here, you would press up into crane. I'm not quite there yet. Gets a little bit tricky for me. Need to build some upper body strength, but that's what we're gonna get into right now, is what drills or exercises can we do that are going to increase our strength to make crow easier. So let's get into that right now. So after having put some pressure on the wrists, it's really good to take a little bit of a break. We're going to do crow sit-ups. So gently lower down, one vertebrae at a time. My feet come out in front of me like this, my arms are up here, and then I do a sit-up, except for where I might normally curl in like this, my knees are gonna come wide, and I'm reaching my arms up and through my legs, which are now in a little diamond shape like this. So if you see, now I'm doing crow pose, my back is on the floor, and I'm imagining the floor is in the sky. Just like that, reach out, and up, out, and up. And in doing this, you want to try to keep your low back, your spine articulated and pressing into the mat the whole time. So if you're starting to lift and do this, and then there's space underneath the low back, you're compensating. So the lower down your feet go, the harder the movement is, but the more your low back is gonna wanna start to arch. So Don't worry if you're keeping your feet just up like this. They don't need to come all the way down. Here, and like that. Good. I'm reaching up towards the ceiling. I'm not reaching my hands towards the feet. I'm reaching them up. Okay. So it's a great introductory ab exercise. You can do that 8 to 10 reps, 3 sets, slowly build your strength, work your way up. And then I always recommend at the end, after you've done your 3 sets, is just holding. So hold for as long as you can. Really use those lower abdomen muscles. And then gently release. Good. So for the next exercise, we're going to work with the abs and hip flexors. So for this, you take your palms to your knee. If you're new to yoga and you have a weaker core, you can keep this leg just relaxed onto the floor, that's fine. But if you're a bit stronger, then I recommend that this leg is lifted and then the head and shoulders gently lift. And I'm pressing my palms into my knee and my knee into my palms. And then I switch. Press, and switch. Just a few seconds every time. I'm gonna relax my head and switch. And try not to crunch the shoulders up towards the ears. Try and keep this just in the abdominals and legs. Crunch, and relax. Good. So same thing, 8 to 10 reps, 2 to 3 sets, building up core strength. And then last but not least, we're gonna do a bit of core strength and arm strength at the same time. So we plant our hands. My knees come between my palms. And then this is called Lolasana, and we do lifts. So just like that, lowering the knees down, pressing up. So this is now also working my arms and shoulders. This is a great prep for crow, great prep for any handstand presses or inversions that you're working your way towards. Good. And same thing there, 8 to 10, 2 to 3 sets, really working those abdominals, doing your wrist warm-ups, and using your blocks as much as you need. So hopefully that helps. I wish you the best of luck on your journey to crow. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.